Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on a totally non-negotiable element of leopard gecko care. We're talking about the humid hide. If you want your little desert reptile to genuinely thrive, not just survive, but really live their best life, you absolutely have to get this right. It's a total game changer.
But right off the bat, let's start with a bit of a paradox. Why in the world do desert geckos desperately need a swampy, dark box to survive? I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? Leopard geckos are naturally from the dry, arid highlands of Asia. Yet, if we don't give them this highly localized, really damp retreat right inside their enclosure, they can actually suffer from severe, sometimes literally life-threatening health issues.
Okay, let's dive into this. A humid hide is basically just a small, enclosed container filled with damp substrate. You can sort of think of it as an exclusive VIP reptile spa. Without this specialized little zone, leopard geckos seriously struggle to shed their skin properly. And that leads to a super dangerous condition called retained shed. Now, retained shed might sound kind of mild, but it can literally cut off circulation to their toes and tail, plus it severely limits their overall hydration. So this isn't just some fun piece of decor you throw in, it is absolutely a fundamental piece of their life support system.
So, what exactly does it take to build this VIP spa? Well, fortunately, it's not going to break the bank. Here is the concrete gear and cost breakdown straight from the research team over at Krawlo. You're going to need a container, which usually runs between $15 and $40. Next, a substrate, something like sphagnum moss or cocoa fiber. That's another $10 to $25. You absolutely need a digital thermometer and hygrometer to monitor the climate. Figure $15 to $35 for that. And then optional natural decor, like leaves or branches, adds maybe $5 to $15. So all in, you're looking at an estimated setup cost of just $45 to $115. It's fast, it's highly affordable, and honestly, it's incredibly effective.
Let's break down the core components, starting with the container itself. When you're picking this out, you really have 3 golden rules to keep in mind. It needs to be opaque, snug, and ventilated. You want a dark plastic container or a specialized terrarium piece that actually blocks out the light so your gecko feels safe and secure. It also needs to be snug, large enough for them to fit comfortably and turn around, sure, but small enough to actually trap that essential moisture. And crucially, it has to have small ventilation holes for air exchange. Stagnant air is literally a breeding ground for bacteria, and we definitely want to avoid that.
Next up is the flooring. And your choice here actually kind of depends on your gecko's unique personality. The Crawler Guide specifically highlights the 2 best options. Now, what's really interesting to consider here is how they differ. On one hand, we have sphagnum moss. It is incredibly soft, almost sponge-like, and famously excellent at retaining moisture. But on the other hand, we have coconut fiber. This is just a fantastic, natural option if your specific gecko is one of those that absolutely loves to dig and burrow. Both of these work perfectly to hold moisture without staying totally soggy, so it really just depends on what your pet prefers.
All right, let's put it all together into a dynamic recipe for success. Think of this entire process in 3 really quick phases. First, prep the container and thoroughly dampen your chosen substrate with water. But, and listen closely to this warning, make absolutely sure to squeeze out the excess. It must be damp, not dripping wet. Okay, second phase is the assembly. Fill the container evenly so there aren't any dry spots, drop your digital thermometer and hygrometer inside, and position the whole setup on the cool side of the tank. Finally, phase 3 is maintenance. You just check it daily to mist and maintain. The Krawlo Guide actually estimates this entire initial build only takes about 30 to 45 minutes. Easy, right?
So the absolutely crucial point here is this exact number, 60 to 80%. That is the strict humidity range the inside of this hide must maintain. Remember, while the rest of the leopard gecko's tank stays nice and dry, the microclimate inside this specific box must strictly hit that target, no exceptions. If you check your hygrometer and see it drop below 60, well, you need to grab your spray bottle and mist that substrate immediately to bring those levels right back up.
Of course, maintaining that perfect microclimate does take a little bit of balancing. If your hide is drying out way too quickly, you either need to change out your substrate material or just simply increase how often you're misting. On the flip side, if that humidity number is spiking way too high, check those ventilation holes and maybe use a little less water. But listen, there is a hidden danger you have to watch out for here, and that is mold. If you see any fuzzy growth whatsoever that is highly dangerous to your reptile's respiratory health, you must act immediately. Throw out all the old substrate, wash the container with a mild reptile-safe disinfectant, rinse it super thoroughly, and then replace it with completely fresh materials.
Actually, let's circle back to our assembly phase for just a second, because it involves a detail that so often gets overlooked. Location is absolutely everything with this. You must keep the humid hide on the cool side of the enclosure. And why is that?
Well, because you want your gecko to be able to enjoy their moist, hydrating retreat without accidentally overheating in the process. Placing it on the cool side ensures they feel secure and physically comfortable while their body handles the critical and honestly sometimes exhausting shedding process.
Okay, so now your gecko has the absolute perfect microclimate for their skin and hydration. The habitat is completely dialed in, and they're happily enjoying their own private spa. But as we know, perfect reptile husbandry doesn't just stop at the environment. It means matching that incredible care with perfect internal nutrition. Everything from calcium dusting to the exact species of feeder insects you use plays a massive, massive role in their overall health and longevity. To really master those exact insect counts, the timing, and all the supplements for babies, juveniles, and adults, you've got to head over to the Krawlo blog and check out their Leopard Gecko Diet Guide. You can explore their incredibly detailed feeding age charts and even check out their fascinating morph price rankings. Seriously, those range from $30 normals all the way up to $3,000 rarities. It's wild. But before you go, ask yourself, you've just spent all this time perfectly optimizing your gecko's external habitat, but is their internal diet truly optimized to match? Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and happy habitat building!